Hi guys and welcome. Today I'm going to show you a little vintage photo album that I've made that holds photos in it, and I'm going to show you how to make it. I'll give you all the measurements. So it sort of just flips out, flips through, and then we've got little corner photo holders. So that's that one there, and I'm going to show you how to make it. The reason I come up with that type of concept is my auntie recently had an 80th birthday and she's got dementia, so she's in a home, and they took her out for the day, and my mum, who's a bit of a scrapbooker, she made this little 6x6 photo album and put some old photos in there and just some little stories, which there is some spots in here for you to do. But apart from that too, because these photos are just sitting in there like that, they're not glued down, a lot of people write their stories on the back or their memories on the back. So that's another way that you can do it. And of course you can interchange your photos if you were carrying that around in your bag and just wanted to take some memories with you. All right, so I'm just using the Tim Holtz cards. I've got all the upright ones, so I've got 4 of those, and then I've got 4 of the little square ones. But you can work with your own photos. You might just have to adjust the photo holders a little bit. You shouldn't have to do that too much. So we start with 2 panels because we're going to join them together for the 4-panel flip out. The first one being the cover one. So it measures 9 and 2/10, so or 0.2 inches by 6 inches, and then it's scored at 4.5. I'll bring that up there. There's 2 little score lines, 4.5 and 4 10/16. And the reason being, because that's our front cover, we need a little bit of a gap there because we've got the other elements folded into it. Otherwise your cover's not going to sit flat. And then we've got the back panel, so it's 9.5 inches, so 9.5 inches by 6, and then it's scored at 4.5, which is the size of each panel, and then it's scored again at the 9, so it leaves that extra 1/2 inch for us to use as a, the tab to glue down and put the panels together. So I'll just get rid of my cutter because we don't need that anymore. I've done all the pre-cutting and I've got all the sizes for you as well for the inside decorative panels, but let's just work on the cover first of all. So we're going to let's fold those over. So you'll see there's like a mini spine in a sense. And because it's so fine, it just takes a little bit of teasing by hand. And then we use our bone scorer. And then we do the other side. You can use these similar measurements too if you just wanted to do a little flip out journal and put some pockets and tucks and things like that in there. You could turn it into so much, but I just wanted to work with some photos because I just love the concept of what my mum did for my auntie, and it was a perfect size. If you have anybody that's in a home, there's not a lot of space to keep their personal items, so it was, yeah, a really good thing to be able to do that. Okay, so we're going to put that on lay it on the inside there because we're going to put a panel over the top, and that way we won't see the join on the outside. So we'll just glue that with some art glitter glue. Dries fairly quickly. We are predicting a wild storm this afternoon, so I'm sort of hoping to get the video done before that hits, because my studio is in a tin shed and we've had quite a lot of hailstorms recently and it could get quite loud and you wouldn't hear me. But at the moment, there's still a bit of blue in the sky. There is clouds coming over, and the wind is picking up. So they forecast strong damaging winds with some possible hail, but not much rain. So we've glued that down. So we've got our 4 panels, and then we've cut out, you pick out a decorative piece of cardstock. So I'm going with the same one as my prototype. One will go on the front panel, and then on each panel in there, and then over on the, let me grab this out and I'll show you. So one on the front panel, then the 4 panels in the middle, and then the back panel, and then the second back panel, but not the absolute back of it, which is why you need 7 all up. Now we can pre-ink these quickly. They don't need much. I'd probably put more inking on the actual craft card, and I love inking craft card. It really does age it, but apart from that, it gives it like a suede look, like a faux suede. And you could do this with any decorative paper if you wanted to do it with color. If you didn't have decorative paper, you could just get some plain paper and stamp on it, and then smear the inking over to distress it. That would look good as well. This paper that I'm using is Stampera. They have some absolutely beautiful papers, and I don't think this one come in a pack. I'm pretty sure I might have purchased this one as separate, just 12 by 12 pages. But normally when they have them like that, you can also buy a pack where they do have similar pages in there. I just liked it because it had the browns, the creams, and didn't really have to do a lot to it. And I wanted a real fairly old world look to the album. It was really fun reminiscing with my mother the other day. Her father, so my grandfather, he actually passed away before I was born, so I never actually got to meet him. And he was 6'7", so he's a very tall, skinny man, worked hard on the farm. There was a photo there of him holding or leaning over this massive pumpkin that he had grown. And I just think the whole aspect of growing up on a farm is, it's just a shame all children can't experience that. All right, so we're going to glue those down quickly. So what I did, I tried to pick out a nice one for the front that was fairly even paneled like that. I mean, even though we are going to put another panel over it, the outside will frame it and make it look pretty even, was my way of thinking. And these are cut smaller than the panels, so the sizes of these inserts are 5 3/4 by 4 1/4. So they give you just that frame around the outside. And then we just glue each panel in there. I really like the art glitter glue because it flows quite easily, or this one does. I filled it up yesterday, but it adheres and dries really quickly. You can also just give it a quick run over with your foam folder just to even things out. Hope you guys are having a great week. My son's actually got his hockey. He plays field hockey here in Australia, and he's got his grand final on tomorrow. So he'll have the usual grand final nerves tonight. And they usually do pretty well. They're a fairly well-skilled team. The team they're playing, they actually beat them in the semi-finals by 4 goals. So I hope that's not made them overly confident going into these grand finals, because sometimes that can hinder you as well. That one I just inked. I must have missed it before. It must have been behind another panel, or I didn't give it enough when I sat it down beside the other one. So that's why I've just thrown a little bit more on there. And you'll do that as you can go through. My first one that I made, I didn't pre-ink. I inked after I had them in there. And of course you can do that as well. It just is a little bit more challenging. So I would suggest, if you do like distressing and inking your projects, to do it as you go, or do them all putting it together. So this last one from memory, I'm going to put the paper slightly in a little bit, and then I'm going to trim off just a slight slither. And the reason being is because that's the one that folds over and tucks. And I remember we just needed to have it sit flat. We just needed just that fraction trimmed off, and we may need to do more. Because see how it folds in there and then folds over. So that's got it. And then we've got the back 2 panels, because we're not doing that final one. I mean, you can if you want. It just means you'd have to then decorate it somehow. And all I did with my other one is just stamped some script on there and inked it, which I'll show you again in a minute when I've got these 2 panels on. Just going to make sure I've got that up the right way, which I don't. It's quite deceiving, this pattern. It looks good both ways, but just mindful that I want them all going the same way so the album flows. Not that I don't think anyone would really notice if you didn't with this pattern. And we're going to have photos covering up the majority of it anyway, so next I'm going to ink that, and I'm going to ink it fairly heavily. So I'll fold that in so I can hold it around the edges, just to really darken them, sort of frame it in a sense. So you need quite a good ink pad, although it is wrecking my sponge. It was on its way out anyway, but I had one fall apart on me this morning, so they probably all are due for new ones. It's especially when you're rubbing on these sharp corners, it can tear your sponge. But I really want to get a defined frame around it like that. You can see that inking does change the appearance again. It really ages and distresses it. And this one you can just do a few over the actual page as well. If I've missed any, I can definitely re-ink those later. I'm going to do the cover. So what I've done with the cover, as you'll see in this one, I actually stamped it with embossing ink, put powder over the top, and then I heat set it. So you'll see that beautiful gold. If you don't have anything to emboss with, just do a stamp. You could do a stamp in a dark brown. I wouldn't go black necessarily. And then with these ones, I had a stamp, I think it's a Dina Wakley stamp, that's got the stamping outside of the letters. Once again, if you didn't have that, you could die cut some letters if you've got letter stamps, or you could just type out the word photos and put on there in distress. Just work with what you got, guys. Today's more about the idea of the folder, but I hadn't embossed for a long time, and I really had a good time doing that. Inside this one, I just stamped script on the pieces that we're going to do next, but for today I actually went to a little bit of trouble and I have embossed each one, and I've actually made them a bit thinner. I thought these ones ended up being a little bit too thick, but then that's entirely up to you, whatever you guys want to work with. So I did a front panel, which is this one here. I've already inked it up, so I'm going to glue that on, and I'll show you the stamp. The stamp that I used, I've had this one for a long time, and it's a Hero Arts one. And I know you can get it in a clear one as well, and it's still available, even though I've had this for years. What's the number of it? It is S5834. Doesn't have a name on it, but it's absolutely beautiful stamp, and that's what I've used on these as well, just to give you a little bit of pattern. But you can use any. You could do script. The script one I used was a Studio 490, a Wendy Vecchi one, and it's called Script, WVBG 022, and it's a background stamp. It's a really good one. I think she designed this for Stampers Anonymous, but it's called Script, and I do use that one a lot, and that's the one that I have used on the back panel on this one. All right, so back to the project. Let's glue this on. But once again, guys, use what you've got. I think most junk journalers or journalers have a bit of a script stamp or some sort of a background stamp that you could use. And I've really heavily inked the edges on this, as you can see. It gives it like a, I think, a suede look. Now the actual letters, as you can see, I haven't cut them out yet, so that's it embossed on there. Once again, you could just stamp them on there, or you could just use die cut letters. But I'm going to cut these ones out, and I leave a really tiny little border because I want to ink it just to give it its own little frame. And I used this stamp. I actually wanted to do my die cuts, but I couldn't find them. We've recently moved house and I do still have a lot of things to unpack that's in a shipping container. So basically just trying to make do, and you don't realise that you've still got stuff packed away until you go to use it. But I really love how this turned out, so I am not too upset about it. The ink I'm using, guys, is the Distress Oxide Walnut Stain. It's probably my favourite. I do work with vintage photo as well, but I actually like, especially working on the darker craft card like this, I like the darker one. So I'm doing the edges, and because it's embossed, I can do the letters as well. I can make them a little bit darker. If I just bring over a scrap bit of paper, well, that doesn't matter, I've got ink on there now anyway. So you can see the difference. If I put it out on the white, you can see the difference between the two. So sometimes it's worthwhile just going to that little bit extra effort with your inking, especially if you want to frame something like we're doing. So relaxing inking. I was just sitting here thinking, gosh, I could quite easily just fade off into switching the brain off, shutting down, but obviously I can't leave you guys unattended, so I'm so sorry if I did fade off there a little bit. There's just something about playing with inks and paints. You've probably heard me say that in previous videos, but getting your hands into inks or paints, it's just so relaxing. There's just something about it that I totally recommend. So just move the scraps away. All right, and this one I thought I'd do something also a little bit different to my my other one. I'm going to move the letters down a bit because I want to put these beautiful filigree decorative corners on like that, and then just have the photos just to, and art glitter's fine with these. I do this all the time and it does hold it, just to give it just that little bit extra vintage old world look to it, because I've had so much fun with the embossing that I just thought I'd add a little bit of extra something. That's the beauty of the tips on these glue bottles. You can just do intricate stuff like this. It dries clear, so it doesn't matter if it runs out a little bit. on them. So it really brings in that gold embossing, just absolutely beautiful. Like I said, I haven't embossed, it's probably 12 months since I've embossed, and I really enjoyed it, especially when you see it coming together and just adding that extra element to it. I think I'll be doing a fair bit more of it. I didn't want to do it on camera with you guys because you don't want to listen to a heat gun, and mine is an old one and it's quite loud. So I am looking for another one at the moment. But the trouble is, a lot of the times, because I'm in Australia, we have to buy converter plugs for, if I was to buy the Tim Holtz one, which I know is a nice quiet one, it's a European plug. So then I've got to find a converter that's compatible for it. So I'll do a bit more research before I do that. So this will give it another frame effect, like we've done the outside. We're now doing this filigree decorative metal work. And you could, if you've got like a background die, you could cut it out and then cut it across, so you've got a triangle, and use that as well if you didn't have anything like this. So you could also emboss it, or just do it in a shiny cardstock perhaps. Just to think outside the square a little bit, to work with what you've got. I think as crafters, we are used to sort of working outside the square and adapting and coming up with different ways that we can do something. But I really love that. I know I do have heaps of these, and I will look to put some in my store. I just need to find them because, like I said, I do have some stuff still packed away that I must get around to. And then just space your letters out, because all your letters will be different depending on what you choose to use. I'm going to put that O over to the side. So these ones should come just inside that framework a little bit, which they do. So I will glue those down. You don't even have to put word on the front. You could put a locket, another filigree metalwork in the middle. You could even put a photo. If you had a really cool photo that you wanted to highlight, you could put that on their front and just do another little frame around it. I did work out that these letters have a top and a bottom, so they've got more space at the bottom of the letter. Trial and error, that's what it's about. So this morning I had to pull a couple off and redo, because even though my tiles lined up, the letters in them didn't line up. You can hear that wind just starting to pick up outside. It is the start of our storm season, so I'm hoping that we don't get too bad of storms this year. Certainly don't need them. How's that, guys? Absolutely beautiful. So we will just make sure they're secure. If they pop off, I can re-glue them. So let's open it up to in the middle. Now there's a lot of strips that we've had to cut out, so, and once again I'll put the sizes down in the description, but we need 7 of the longer strips, and they're 5 1/4. They're all 1/2 inch, so they're 5 1/4 long, and then I used a corner rounder on both of them, but you don't have to. It's entirely your choice, but I think it actually finishes it off nicely. And if you leave it in a square corner, they can go tatty after a period of time. So we'll start with the first panel. So we're going to put it down the side here like that, and then I'm going to put all my long panels in one area, because we do need some different sizes, and it's quite easy to get them mixed up. And I'll tell you how much of each that we do need of them. Here to be missing one, but anyway, well, let's move on. All right, so we need 7 of these long ones, which are 5 1/4 by 1/2 inch, and I've corner rounded on one side of them, and these are for the panels that have the larger photos in them. So if we're looking at those, and then we have along the bottom, we have 4 of them that are 3 3/4 by 1/2 inch. And then when we get to the little square ones, they are 3 1/4 by 1/2 inch, and we need 8 of those. So I've cut them all. I've corner rounded them all, embossed them, and inked them, so you won't have to sit here and watch me do that. Now we're going to glue them in. So I put the side strips on first, and the reason I do that is because how the photo tucks in, and it just holds the actual frame together. So just to the edge of your paper panel, you can go a fraction over, secure that down, and then one of the 3 3/4, so the ones that we've got the 4 of. They then, actually, I'll move that one down because I have made them skinnier for this one. So just move it down the page a bit. And then this one overlaps in the corner there. Just to neaten off, sorry, I hope I'm not off camera. If you can just neaten off the bottom there. And then we've got our, just enough for the small piece of the photo to slide in there. Let's get one and I'll show you. So we've just got enough tuck in there. The first time you put it in might be a bit, like any tuck, a bit stiff to get in there. But just enough to hold it in place. So when you're opening and closing the book, it's not going, your photos aren't going to fly out. So it's a nice snug little piece. So this next two panels, we've got the little square ones, so we'll go with that. I'm going to put it across the top first on this one. Once again, it's because how we tuck the photo up, because the side one then will hold that top piece in place. So a little bit of science there, but trial and error too when you go to do it. You know what? It's because I've inked the whole lot. Getting carried away. I think I've done that on. That's enough up to hold the, yeah, sorry about that guys. We should only be inking along the straight edge there. That's me. I always have a laugh to myself because it is actually quite difficult when you're talking, thinking, doing at the same time. No matter how many times you do something, you always leave yourself open to errors because, you know, your hands are doing something, you're talking or trying to inform you guys of what we're doing. I'll go over to the next one until that dries. And just sometimes it just doesn't doesn't work out, or you know, mistakes happen, but we can always cover them up or redo them. And then this one just goes, flaps over the top there. It neatens up the corner, but by having that over the top, when we're pushing that up, it holds this top flap down as well. So that's what we have, what we're going to have the little, our little square ones in. So they'll tuck in there like that. All right, let's go back to this one. So across the top first. You might decide you like little photos through the whole ones. So like I said, you'll just, depending on the size of your photo, just adapt your corners. So these ones we're doing for the square ones, if you wanted small photos right throughout, you would just do a lot more of these ones and have 2 photos on each panel. Or you might decide, no, I don't want the little ones, I just want all big ones. Then you would just do this one right through. And then on these 2 center pages, we've got another one down the bottom. So we do the side panel first. And then we do the other panel over the top to finish out the corner. And the rounded edge always goes on the inside. On the inside, not on the outside. Move it over and we'll do this bottom corner. So the side strip first. Oh, I've done it again. just on the edge, guys, with the glue. And then along the bottom, so it neatens up the corner like that. The fourth panel, so it's the big ones. So it's the 5 1/4 by 1/2 inch, the one we did 7 of. And we're going to do, the side first. Sticking with these same principles. And then across the bottom, which is the 3 3/4 by 1/2 inch. So they're all 1/2 inch wide. That first one I did that I showed you, I think I went 3/4 of an inch, or I might have even gone an inch. But I thought I'll go smaller because you don't want to cover up too much of it. And now we've got the 2 back panels to do. So it doesn't take long to throw it together if you do all your pre-work first. Now this one I did both, so I did it over this side and not this side, because this is the portion that gets folded in, and we're mindful to not have too much bulk on that side, because we want our front cover to be able to close and stay closed. I mean, of course you can put a closure of some sort on the photo album, or if you're making this a journal, then on the journal, but it'll lay fairly flat anyway. So I haven't done one on this occasion. And then this one over on this side. So we fold that up and just check that we've done all our panels, which we have. There's nothing on the back, remember. So if we open it up, we have photo there, 2 photos there, 2 photos there, photo there. Then if we turn it over, we've got a photo there. If we turn it over, we've got a photo there. So I do have some extras, but I think I just cut a heap this morning and was just having a lovely time embossing that I got a bit carried away. And I'd rather have extra than get halfway through a video when you've prepared everything like that, especially with the embossing, because it's messy and it's quite loud, like I said. So I'm just going to, these are quite white and stark. They're absolutely beautiful, but they don't take much to distress. Like you can just, you don't even have to really pay too much attention to it. And then you just work out what order that you want them in. I tried to sort of marry up the photos like they were a family album. So 2 of the guys, I got the girls there, and you know, girlfriends, or they could be sisters, another gentleman and a couple of the ladies, just to sort of give it that family feel throughout the album. But if you were using your own photos, then obviously these square ones have somewhat pre-inked. But my mother is going to give me some of the old photos to copy and use in my projects, which I'm really looking forward to. I actually got quite excited about that when she said she would. And it's funny, my mother wore glasses when she was younger. She doesn't now. She's had some eye operations, but she wore those real cat eye glasses. They're really weird, funky looking. I know they sort of come back in the was it the 80s or the 90s there at one stage, but yeah, I always have a bit of a laugh to myself. So then you just got to work out where you want your photos to go. These ones are relatively easy. I'm going to put the sisters maybe, and then the man and the lady like that. I really like the soldier. So if you open it up, I don't know whether the camera's wide enough, so I'll scoot you through. If you open it up like that, it sort of flows like a family. And then I'll just tuck these in. I know this one's a bit dodgy because I glued the whole thing down. I will try and tease that. I know, we're in. So we'll try and tease that open just a little bit more later. But no, that's good enough. And these ones should just slide straight in. Which they do. And you want them fairly firm, hugging the photo like that, because as you can see, they don't fall out. Give them a good shake, they don't fall out. And because you're not gluing them in there, if you had this in your handbag, you could change your photos around and you can write what they are on the back. That way you're never ever going to forget. You can just pull them out and go, oh, you know, who was in this photo, or what was this? And it, you know, it might be a holiday or a family member that's no longer with you. I hope you're really getting something out of this, guys. Like I said, it's got so many uses. A present for somebody, you know, get some of their photos, or if you've got some photos, if they're a family member, you know, sit down and reminisce with them. Write the stories on the back of your photos with them. That way you've got them forever and a day as well. Especially if you've got a loved one that's got dementia, because their stories will become few and far between as they slip away, and it's quite sad. But you know, by sitting down and writing the stories on the back of these photos, you're going to have that memory when they're no longer with you as well. Or it could be simply a little brag book to carry in your handbag. You know, photos of the kids, and as the kids grow, you can swap the photos out because you're not gluing them in. But that's it, guys. Absolutely gorgeous. Actually, we will stamp the back, and I'll just show you all I did with that one. So I just used archival ink. This one's called Potting Soil. Really beautiful color. I only bought them a couple of weeks ago because I wanted some different colors. I think I've got a red, a green, a sienna, a brown. I already had the black. And I like the brown, especially on the craft, because I didn't want it to be too in your face like black can be. I love this script stamp because it's even. Some of the ones you get, there's gaps and things like that. And this one sort of, you get an even script across. All right, beautiful. I'll clean that later. And then just, I might ink it just a little bit more, just to define that edge a little bit more. So when we fold it, the back panel goes over, then we go over, and then we close the front. And that's our little photo album, guys, memory book, brag book, whatever you want to call it. It can also be tucked in a journal. It will sit flat enough like that because you've got enough weight inside the front of that one, and you've cut it, and you've thought about it when you've folded it, that, you know, we trimmed that little snippet off the edge so that that fits in there, and that will fold over without the bulk on that fold. We put that little tiny little spine in there that will hold the bulk of the folds that we're putting through in there. And then we've just got a beautiful little book. You could put a magnet there, you could put a some sort of a latch, you could just wrap it in ribbon or sari silk, but with mine I'm going to leave like that because I really love it. But thanks for joining me today, guys. Please subscribe to my channel. It will help me out to bring, or to continue bringing you ideas like this, or on how I do things at the very least. I do a mixture of everything, but would love to see you back, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great day, guys, and I'll catch you soon. Bye.